Okay, good afternoon. Today I'm going to explain the fourth program, that is a client dispatcher program. So it is similar to what we have discussed the program during the last week. Last week we have discussed on a forwarder receiver. So where it is a peer-to-peer communication, and the peer-to-peer communication is going to happen among the distributed system. So similarly here what we are trying to have is, here we are using a client dispatcher server pattern. So in a client dispatcher pattern, what we are trying to identify is whatever the communications that are going to happen within a system, distributed system, that should have a transparency. So what is the total runtime, total compile time that is going to happen? So how the system is going to provide a communication with the other system. That is the main intention of the client dispatcher system. The client dispatcher has a different layers. So between a client and a server, we have a one more layer called as a intermediate layer. So that intermediate layer we are calling it as a dispatcher component. So what happens whenever a server has to provide a service to the client? So what the server should have, it should give the transparency for providing the service, but hiding all the implementation details from the between a client and the server. So to do that, what happens? The client has to provide its location transparency. Yes.
Excuse me,
Yeah, tell me, ma.
ma'am. You need to do third program, ma'am. Forward a receiver. You have
What,
not
ma'am?
done, ma'am. You need to do third program, ma'am. Forward a receiver.
I didn't do, huh?
No, ma'am. Only two programs we have done. Last week you did command receiver program, ma'am.
Hey, last week for which batch I explained? I explained for you people only, no?
For us, you did command receiver, ma'am. For batch one, batch two, you did forward a receiver, ma'am.
Okay, no problem. I will explain this and I will go back to the forwarder receiver.
Okay, ma'am.
That's not a problem. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. I'll explain this and I'll come back. Both I will explain today itself.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So the other name for the client dispatcher pattern, we call it as a the other name we call it as a visitor pattern. That is the alias name for a client dispatcher pattern. So here, what is the context that we are taking? We have a system software and we have a distributed server network. So when you say a distributed network, so what happens? Generally, if any one of the system is not able to provide a service, or if any one of the server goes a failure, or if the server is busy, then what happens? It has to provide the service from the other server. So to get the service from a server, so what we need to do, we need to know where the server is being located, but the client will be not knowing where the server is being located. So we need to identify how to locate the server, and how to get the service from the server, and what are the functional components that are available for a communication. So this is what the problem that we need to find. That is, we need to identify without the location awareness, where the server is being located. The client insists to get a service from the uh, get the service from the server. So here, how to provide the solution? So the first thing is, we need to have a dispatcher has a component which sits between a client and a server. So when you say a dispatcher has a component, so what happens? It will locate both the client and the server. So how it is going to track the server? All the server will come, and it has to register for the dispatcher. So what happens, where the server is being located? So all the server information will be will be taken care by the dispatcher. So that is what we call it as a location transparency. So when a client is sending a request, so what happens? The dispatcher will locate the server. So which server is able to provide a service, whether that particular requested service is available within that server or not, within that server or not. So that has to be identified. So to identify that, what we are trying to use, we are trying to use this intermediate layer called as a dispatcher. So who are the participants? So here we have a client, server, and a dispatcher has a participants or a components or the structure what we call. Okay, so the first participant is the client. So what does the client will do? The client is requesting for a service through the GUI, or he is requesting through the communication channel. Once the communication channel is being established from the client to the server, what does the server will do? The server will take the response and it will forward that to the client. And next thing is server. So what does the server will do? So the server will take a name and address of address where the server is being located. So it will go and it will register to the dispatcher. So once the server is being registered under the dispatcher, so now it will be able to reach a network whenever a client is sending some specific task or request. So what happens? It will be able to provide a service. So next, the work, coming back to the dispatcher. So what are the functionalities of the dispatcher? So the dispatcher will first, it will establish a communication channel between a client and a server. So only once the communication channel is being established between a client and a server, so what happens? It will identify whatever the server, it will locate for a servers, whether all the servers are available, whichever the server has registered, whether all these servers are able to provide a service, whether all the servers are available. If it is available, what happens? It will redirect the communication handle mechanism to the client. So it will send a response to the client. So whatever the request that has been done. Then the dispatcher has an ability to register and unregister the server. That means if the server is not able to provide a service anymore else, then what the server can do? The server can unregister, the dispatcher can unregister all the servers which is not providing the service. So that is how, that is the part of the dispatcher. So here is a use case diagram. In a use case diagram, what we have a user and we have a service. So what does the user will do? The user is nothing but a client. So the client is requesting for a particular set of services with the help of a GUI. Then it will be sent to the service. What the service will do? The service in turn will send a response to the user. So that is what the use case diagram says. Next, what we have is a class diagram. In a class diagram, we have a 5 different classes that we have written. So one is a client class, and one is a client dispatcher system, one is a print service, one is a server, and one is a dispatcher. So here what happens? The client, all this client class, dispatcher, print service, and the server. Or here you can see a dashed line. So this dashed line, we call it as a dependency. So all this this CDS component is mainly dependent on a client class, dispatcher, and a server. So what does the client class will do here? The client class, what we have taken, it is a constructor here, the operation, and do task is requesting for the services. So once the client sends a service, what does the dispatch? It will move to the dispatcher. So in a when it connects to the dispatcher, so what is the first working of the dispatcher? The dispatcher will establish the client. That means it will create a communication channel will be established. Once the communication channel is being established, then whatever the request service are there, so that it will invoke the request service. So once the service is being invoked, it will be passed directly to the print service. So what if the printer is being located somewhere else remotely, then the request whatever the client is sending, that will be taken care to the print service. So once the print service get the request, so what happens, it has to connect to the server. So to connect to the server, what happens, this CDS system will help out. So what is the CDS system will be having, it will be having the server location transparency. So it will look for the server and it will connect to the server whatever the services are there. So it will establish the connection and it will run the service. So the run service method will be having whatever the task that the client is requesting, those tasks will be executed on behalf of the client. So that is how the client dispatcher class diagram says. So in the next, what we have is a sequence diagram. In a sequence diagram, we have a client, we have a dispatcher, and we have a server. Three objects are there. So what does the client will do? The client will first fetch a channel. To fetch a channel, what does the dispatcher will do? The dispatcher will locate for the server. It will search for the server whether any other servers are available able to locate the service. So what happens? The dispatcher will establishes a communication channel to the server. So once the connection is being accepted, so that reply will be returned back to the dispatcher by the server and the reply message will be sent back to the client. So once the communication channel is being established between a client and a server, now what happens? The client is sending a request. Whatever the request that the client is sending, that will go directly to the server. Now what happens once the server receives the request? So it will run the service on behalf of the user and the response, whatever the resultant is there, so the resultant service will be returned back to the client. So once the client receives the response, so what happens? All the objects will be destroyed since there are no more actions are available. So next what we have is a user, client dispatcher, client dispatcher system, dispatcher, and a service. So first what the user will do, the user is requesting for a service here. So the client dispatcher is requesting for performing a task on behalf of the for the client. What does the client will do? The client will get the channel from a dispatcher and to get a communication channel established, the server will accept the connection. So once the connection is being accepted, now the client will send a service. The service is going to reply back to the client dispatcher system that the whatever the response is being requested by the client, that is being executed. So next what we have is a collaboration diagram. So in a collaboration diagram, what we have a three different objects. One is a client, server, and a dispatcher. So you can see the operation which is the first and second. Okay, first the client will get a channel. So once the to get a channel, it connects to the dispatcher. In a dispatcher, it is a self operation that has been going to be executed. So first the dispatcher will locate the server. It will try to establish the connection. So once the connection is being established by the dispatcher, so the dispatcher will send a message to the server by accepting the connection. So once the to accept the connection, so what the server will do? The server will accept the connection and it will reply back to the dispatcher. Later in turn, the dispatcher will reply back to the client. So once the client receives the message that the channel is being connected, then what happens? The client can directly request for the server to run the service. So later what it will do, whatever the task that the client has asked or requested, so it will run for the service and it will reply back to the client. So this is how the collaboration diagram works. So next we have a collaboration diagram for the entire system, whatever the class that we have taken. So we have taken a user, we have taken a request CDS system, client, dispatcher and the service. So the user will request for the service, client dispatcher service. So it will in turn ask for the client to do the task. What does the client will do? First it will ask for the establishment of the connection. Later, the accept connection will be sent to the service once the service is being requested. So it will reply back. Then it will send a request to the client dispatcher system. So later, what happens? Whatever the service that the client is requested, it will run the service and it will reply back. So this is how the collaboration with respect to the class what we have taken, it will work. So next is a activity diagram. So in this activity diagram, what happens? First, it will send a request. It will, the dispatcher will check for the registration of the server. Once the registration of the server is being identified, it will establish the connection. So once the connection is being established, it will send the actual request to the server. The server will request the service from the server, and the service since no more service is being sent by the client, it will stop. So you can also include one more. So server will run the service. That again you can add one more action. So that is what the activity diagram. So next, coming for the implementation of the code, Java code, what we are using, first class is a client dispatcher class, which is a main class where we are creating the object for a client class, and we are calling whatever the request that the client want to execute. Those requests we are trying, those requests whatever that a client has to do, that will be available in a do task method. So that method we are calling in a client dispatcher system. Next thing is we have a server class. So in a server class, what we have a run service. So just we are printing a message that a service is provided. So after running the service, it has to give the confirmation to the user whatever the service requested by the client, it has been provided. So next thing is client class. Next, in a client class, what we are creating an object for a print server class and the dispatcher class. So here the in a client class, what we have a do task has a operation. In a do task, what we are doing, so by using the object of the dispatcher, we are trying to request for the establishment of, we are requesting for the service, and we are requesting for establishing the connection to the server through the dispatcher. Since dispatcher has all the information about the servers, while the server has registered along with the dispatchers. So next, in a dispatcher class, create an object for a client class. So create an object for a dispatcher. So after creating the object for a print server and the client class, Okay, so we have a method called as a established channel. So this channel we are calling in a client class, and this method is available in a dispatcher class. Through the object of the dispatcher class we are invoking this. So first it will print has a connection is being established, and next thing is print the run service. So whatever the service that the client has been requested, so that service will be run by the dispatcher. Next, what we have a request channel has a method. So in a request channel, just we are trying to print for the confirmation that the server is being registered. So this method is being invoked by using a dispatcher object, which we are calling in a client class. So next what we have is a print server class. So in a print server class, you need to create a object for a client class, dispatcher and a server, and you need to run the service. Whatever the client has sent the request, that service has to be run by the server. So by using the object of the server, what we are trying to do, we are calling the run service. So when this method run service is being invoked, so whatever the client has requested for the services, that services will be provided. So this is how the output will be. So first it will identify that the server is registered, and when the client calls for the establishment of the communication channel, it will display the message as a channel, communication channel is being established. So when you when the run service method is being invoked, so it will print the message as a service provided. So this is how the client dispatcher is going to work. And we have some variants. So in this variants, what we have a distributed dispatcher, and we have distributed dispatcher we are trying to use in a distributed network to identify the different servers where the location of the server has to be identified. And next thing is client dispatcher server with the communication managed by the clients. That means if if many clients are requesting for the to run the service by the server, then the clients has to be managed. So for managing the client, we can also use the client dispatcher. And the next thing is client dispatcher server with heterogeneous communication. So there can be a different networks. So among the different networks, and the server may be connected among the heterogeneous network. So to have a establishment of a connection to the heterogeneous network, the client dispatcher system can be utilized. So the applications or users are RPC mechanism. That means for having the remote procedure calls. So what is this remote procedure call? A service will be located in some other server. So you need to have an access to the some other server which is being located in some other country or some other state. So to have a access to that particular method, we call it as a RPC mechanism. And one more is in a Corba we can use the client dispatcher system. So the advantages of the client dispatcher are exchangeability of the server, location migration transparency, as I said, if there are any problem with the server, we can exchange the server or we can reconfigure the server. And once the server is being exchanged, again that server has to be configured, and that location, that server name has to be replaced. And next thing is easily reconfiguration. So if there is any failure, you can make a new reconfiguration of a server. And the fault tolerance, that means whatever the, if one of the server is not able to provide the service, then what happens, it will look for the other server in a different location, and it is trying to fetch for the same or similar kind of services. And next thing is disadvantages. So when it comes for disadvantages, so it has a less efficiency, and establishment of connection could be a difficult task. So if the server is located somewhere else, and if the location transparency is not being clear, then what happens, the explicit connection can be very difficult. And the next thing is complexity of design and implementation. Since the server has to be registered for the dispatcher, so the implementation of this part would be a difficult, or it can be a challenging one. And the next thing is sensitivity to change the interface. That means whatever the interface that the application at the application level that we are trying to have, so that changing the interface for registration of the dispatcher component along with the server component would be a difficult task. So that is about the client dispatcher system. Yes, you have any doubts with this, Apurva?
No, ma'am.
Shall I go with the forward receiver pattern?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I will explain this. Then you can try with this program. Okay. So in a forwarder receiver pattern, what we are identifying the inter-process communication among the peer-to-peer model. So at the same with the same peers, how the communication is going to happen. So what are the underlying mechanism at the low level? We have a different level of service mechanism. One is a low level mechanism, one is a high level mechanism. So when the peer-to-peer communication has to happen, so we need to observe that what are the different kinds of process that are going to happen. So that is the main intention of the forwarder receiver pattern. So the context is we have a distributed system. So in a distributed system, whatever the whoever the peers what we call them as a client, so what type of request that a client is going to send, and how the service is being provided for the client, that we need to observe. So that is the context that we are trying to put up in a forwarder receiver pattern. The problem is when we are establishing a communication channel between a client and a server, or between a peer-to-peer, what we need to identify, as I said, low-level mechanism, that is inter-process communication. So when you say inter-process communication, what we need to have? We need to have a communication within a particular set of network. What we need to have? We need to have a set of protocol. Either it can be a TCP/IP protocol, it can be a sockets, it can be a message which is being stored up in a queue. It can be a different messages that has to be communicated among the system, that has to be identified. So for that, what we need, the underlying mechanism is the protocol. So without a protocol, a communication cannot happen. So how do we establish a communication? So what are the hardware requirements? What are the software software requirements, how these components are helping us to have an access to the high level mechanism such as a remote procedure calls. That is a particular operation or a method or a application which can be stored somewhere else in a remote place. So the user or a client want to have an access. So to have an access to that application, it is a high level. So between a high level and between a low level mechanism, so how the communication channel is being, how the communication exchangeability is going to happen between these two. So what are the impacts that are going to occur that we need to identify. So to identify that, what we are trying to do, we are trying to use a solution. So how we are bringing a solution? So we are requesting one has a client, one has a server, and one particular component which is trying to intermediate between both the client and the server. So without the it has to identify whatever the messages that the client is requesting. So all these services will be encapsulated for the security purpose. So once the services is being encapsulated, so without by identifying the physical location, our communication channels will be established. So for that, what we are using the concept of marshalling and unmarshalling of the messages. So here what we have a structure. So in a structure we have a three participants. One is a peer, forwarder, and a receiver. So when it comes for a peer, what the peer or a client, what they are going to do, they are going to handle at the application level. They are going to request for the service, whatever the task that has to be carried out, they are requesting for the service. So whatever the service that they have raised, so they use a intermediate layer or mediator. So we, for whom we call it as a forwarder. So what the forwarder will do, the forwarder will send the messages to the other peers. Say for example, if you are having a 5 different system, you have you are connecting with all this, you want to send the messages for all the respective 4 system. So what the forwarder will do, the forwarder is responsible for managing all the different clients. It will identify and it will send the messages to all the different peers. And what does the forwarder will do? The forwarder will have its own boundary. It has its own interface. So through the inter-process communication mechanism, that means whatever the request that has been raised, so it will marshal all the messages and it will identify to whom that message has to be delivered. So it will identify the physical address of the intended person and it will deliver that particular message to the particular pair. Then what about the receiver? The receiver is responsible for receiving all the messages. So while receiving the messages, so while forwarding, the forwarder will encapsulate or marshal the message and it will send. So before receiving, what does the receiving will do? So at the receiving end, whatever the messages that has been encapsulated, so it will unmarshal the message and it will receive all the messages. So that is what the functionality of the receiver. So here below it shows a use case diagram. So in this use case diagram, what we have a peer 1, we have a peer 2. Since it is a peer-to-peer communication, you can say client 1 and client 2 also. That's not an issue. What we have a peer 1. Peer 1 will request for the service and that service will be taken care by the peer 2. What does the peer 2 will do? It will accept the requested service and it will reply back in terms of a response by executing all the services. So next we have a class peer, receiver and a forwarder. So what does the peer will do? The peer will connect. Here, the peer will ask for the service. So peer class is the main class. It will ask for the service. Okay. So what happens here? The receiver will receive the receiver has to receive the message. So to receive this message, the peer will send a message to the forwarder. What the forwarder will do? The forwarder will marshal the message. That is, it will encapsulate the message. It will encode all the message. So whatever the request that has been arised by the peer, it has to execute those request service. So it will send to the receiver. What does the receiver will do? The receiver will unmarshal the message and it will execute its services. So next is a sequence diagram. So in a sequence diagram, we have a user, peer, forwarder, and a receiver. So what does the user will do? The user will request for the service for the peer. What does the peer will do? The peer will forward the message to the forwarder by unmarshalling it. Okay. Then what does the peer will do? The peer will send a message. The forwarder will forward the message. The receiver will unmarshal the message and it will receive the messages. So next we have a collaboration diagram. So in a collaboration diagram, first the user will send for a requesting of the service to the peer. What does the peer will do? The peer will locate for the forwarder and it will tag the message and it will send a message to the forwarder. So next what happens? There is a receiver. It will unmarshal the message and it will receive the message. So next what we have an activity diagram. So in an activity diagram, what we have, we are in the initial state, it will request for the services, it will send the message. So here in activity diagram, what happens? The same process will be fogged into two different processes simultaneously. So it has to encapsulate the message and to the intended person it has to deliver. So it will marshal and deliver and it what happens? It will receive the it will send the message. It will send a message. So once the message is being received, so what happens? It will receive the message. It will unmarshal both. It will receive at the receiver end and it will unmarshal it. So this is what the one peer is going to do. So after receiving, what should happen? So next so what happens? The message will second thing is it has to send the response. So that we are calling it as a message to. So again it will marshal and it will deliver. So once the message is being received by the other pair in terms of a response, it will receive and it will unmarshal. So it will be in a readable format. Then no more actions are there. So it will stop the execution. So that is how the activity diagram is going to work. So next we have a Java implementation. So here we have three classes. One is a forwarder class, receiver, and a peer class. So first we will go with the receiver class. So in a receiver class, what we are using? We are using a receiver has a constructor where we are just printing the whatever the messages that has been sent by the other peer. The receiver will give the confirmation that the message has been received. And what we have a unmarshal. That is, before reading the actual message at the receiver end, the messages has to be unmarshaled. So it will unmarshal, and it will open the message. That is, it will call this. It will invoke the receiver. It will invoke the constructor in a receiver class. And the next thing is in a forwarder class. So in a forwarder class, what we have a receiver. We are creating the object for the receiver class. So what does the forwarder will do? The forwarder will marsh. What does the forwarder will do? The forwarder will marshal all the messages. So it will just print the marshalling is done. Okay. Then by using the receiver object, it at the receiving end it has to unmarshal it. So whatever the receiver that we have class, so for that receiver we have created the object. So by using the object of the receiver, it will unmarshal and the messages will be in a readable format. And the next what we have is a peer class. So when we are using a peer class, what we are using, we are using the receiver, we are creating the object for a forwarder and a receiver. So in a peer class, what we need to do, we need to run the service. So for running the service, what we are using in a service method, we are printing a message whatever the peer is sending the message. Then by using the forwarder, whatever the messages that has to be sent, that will be marshaled. So after marshalling, in a main method what we are using, we need to run the service. So this service has to be invoked. So this service will be invoked by using a peer class. So we are creating an object for a peer class by using a new peer method. So what happens, this service will be invoked. So when the service is being invoked, so what happens, so first it will display the message has sending the message, marshalling is done. So these two are done by the forwarder. Okay, so then at the receiving end, it will first unmarshal, then the message will be received. So in that particular order, the program will be executed. So next we have a variance. So this forwarder receiver can be taken as a name to address without name to address mapping. That means there can be a different peers. So all these different peers we need to locate that. So without using a name and name and location, we can use a mapping for a forwarder and we can use this forwarder receiver concept. And the users for we can use for a reboot in a reboot system. The forwarder receiver is being used in TASC. The forwarder receiver is being used, and in ATMP the forwarder receiver pattern is used to manage the peer-to-peer communication. And the advantages of this forwarder receiver pattern is efficient IPC mechanism. That means the observation of an inter-process communication can be effectively done with the forwarder receiver pattern. Since it is providing the encapsulation of the messages, all the messages can be conveyed easily. And the disadvantages, no support for flexible reconfiguration of components. That means if there are any components, there is a failure. If it is not able to provide a service, then to replace that particular component, it will be a very hard thing. And the next thing is, it will raise a complexity of the system. So to replace that particular system, to reconfigure and making the mapping would be a difficult task with respect to the forwarder receiver pattern. Any doubts, ma'am?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you try to execute both the program. If it is not there, you can let me know tomorrow, okay? Or else, if you want to join, you can join with the other batch also. Tomorrow, anyhow, I have to explain the program. If you have any doubts, you can join there and let me know.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay then. Try to
Thank
exit.
you, ma'am.
Okay then. Thank you.
Thank you.